So let's talk about the Great Conjunction, which is the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which is happening on the 20th of February. And this is relevant because, first of all, we can't take these aspects on their own because they're always part of a larger pattern. However, I'm going to describe some of the other things that are going on. First of all, we know that there's an eclipse on the 17th, a couple of days before. All of this is happening next week. So the other thing that's happening first of all, on the 20th, there was a girl out there who's predicting a giant earthquake in San Francisco on the 20th, which would break open the San Francisco Bay and flood Central California and turn California into peninsula, which is something that I've predicted for a long time. Don't have that particular date. Could that be possible on this date? Yes, absolutely it could be. I actually feel that what's going on, and I have reasons for this that I've posted in Telegram, but that this would, if this does happen at that time, it is a man-made event. It is not natural. Okay. We do have a lot going on in the electromagnetic frequencies of the planet because there's this crazy activity coming from the sun that is absolutely shaking up the entire electromagnetic magnetosphere of the earth and the earth's magnetic, mantle and all of these things that are going on that is really crazy and like literally never been seen before. This actually ties in with one of my channelings or several of my channelings that are in the members area. And these discuss energy and frequency changes and the changes that are going to bring about real light versus false light. And this, we're basically evolving or not. There's some humans are evolving and some are not. That's what this energy is about. I'm not saying it's all happening on the 20th, but I'm saying that a lot of the electromagnetic changes on the planet are changing us. Okay. And this could be what people are referring to as the 3D, 5D split and things like that. But I see it more as organic changes that are happening within people. So make sure you subscribe because I will read some excerpts from those channelings that talk about the energy shifts that are happening. Okay. Because these were channeled several years ago. But this Saturn Neptune conjunction Saturn can be the government. Neptune can be religion. It can be the subconscious. And this literally was what came to me when I was, in that almost sleep state, which is perfect because what came to me was the breakdown of the word subliminal, sublime, liminal, right? Those root words. So let's look up liminal and see what that Latin root actually means. So my mom actually went to school in London. I went to school in London too when I was little, but she went to school at a time when all the kids learned Latin in school, which is a dead language, but it is the roots of our English language. And so all these Latin roots meanings have very significant, meanings to things that are going on. So let's just read this. So the etymology of this word from the Latin luminaris, or from limen, doorstep, threshold, doorway, entrance, beginning, commencement. Suffix forming adjectives of relationships from nouns. Limen is possibly derived from limus, askew, sideways, possibly ultimately from Proto-Indo-European to bend, to bow, elbow. Suffix forming neuter. Okay, let's go past all this. It's sort of basically it gives you the pronunciation. It says it's an adjective, liminal, more liminal, most liminal, of or pertaining to an entrance or threshold, basically usually considered like the threshold of sleep or the threshold of day into night. That's normally how it's used. Anthropology, literary theory pertaining to or in a state that is in between or transitional between two or more other states while belonging to neither, pertaining to or in state such as to be neither definitively in a particular other state or category nor definitely outside of it. Basically in the hallway, right? We've left one thing and we're moving into something new, and now we're in the hallway. We're not in either place yet, right? Anymore or yet. Of or pertaining to a beginning or first stage of a process, inceptive, incohative, marginal. So that is the meaning of the word liminal, which is the root of subliminal. Subliminal meaning below the threshold of consciousness, right? The liminal state is when you're just falling to sleep, or the state of dusk when the shadows get a little weird because the sun has gone down, but we're not in the day anymore, but we're not quite in night either. That's the liminal, the between state. And I've been getting a lot of messages about the idea of a membrane, that we're sort of crossing a membrane of some sort, that we're moving through this membrane of change, okay? And the, e-files and all of that stuff is tied to it. And I will talk about that in another video also. But just to be aware that all of this is related, by the way, to the Saturn Neptune conjunction. Okay. The Saturn Neptune conjunction can be very religious. And so we just in the last few days saw AI create its own religion. Okay. That happened. It created its own religion with angels and like a whole hierarchy and everything. So there's something they're going to try and push people towards. All this stuff with the Epstein stuff is pushing a lot of people in the direction of hopefully spirituality, but often religion. And it can be very fake religion. A lot of religions are fake. I mean, we saw that good old Deepak was in the files. And he said, what did he say? He said, God is theoretical, but pretty girls are real, right? Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he said. Real spiritual guy. Yeah, real spiritual. Actually, I have a story about him. Years ago, someone I knew did a reading for him. He came in to have a reading with her, and she starts saying, "Oh, well, all of the money that started your business came from your wife, and you're cheating on your wife." And he went, "You're really good," and he got up and left because she could read him. So yeah, he's never been a good guy. I've never liked him. So the thing is that like there's a lot of exposure with the Saturn Neptune conjunction. It is revealing illusions, things that are subliminal, that are below the conscious threshold. We are seeing attitudes that people have about things. Do people actually care about children or not? I would say this is a line in the sand. Like anybody who's not up in arms and completely upset about what's going on, what's happening, what's now obviously consciously being made aware to all of us is not somebody I want in my life at all. Right. So because the protection of children is, Elon Musk says that AI could be an existential threat to humanity. No, we already have an existential threat to humanity. That is us not protecting children. That is an existential threat to our humanity, meaning an existential threat to our soul, an existential threat to compassion, to humanity. We are not human if we don't have compassion and protection for the smallest, weakest, most vulnerable members of our society, our children. That is the above liminal level of the most basic threshold that is required for humanity. Anybody who falls below that threshold, who is like, it's not that big a deal, or doesn't want to pay attention to it, or puts it in denial, that is, to me, subhuman. You're no longer human if you're below that threshold, because this is the base level of humanity, okay? And this is also the rising of the divine feminine, which is about compassion and humanity and caring and the connection to feeling, the feeling states. So yes, a lot of people are going through a lot about these files, but I would say, what about the kids who went through it? They're going through it like 1,000 times worse. It's overwhelming to get this truth if you didn't already know it, which a lot of us, and mostly if you're following me, I think you already knew this stuff was going on. So, the point is like, it's a bigger issue than any individual. Okay. And it is time for us as a collective species, those of us who are human, to step forward and say, no, we will not put up with this. Of course, the government is not going to do anything, but there will be something done. And that is a lot of what this Saturn Neptune thing is crystallizing for us. It is crystallizing things that have been buried beneath the surface, which is the offloading, the denial, the hiding, the burying of this massive amounts of suffering among humanity. This is not a rare occurrence. This is not something that's only happening to a few people in the higher echelons of American society. No. This happens all across every society in the world. There's not a single family on earth that doesn't have some association with this issue, okay? This somebody in their family somewhere has done these things, okay? So there's nobody on earth who is not affected. So the fact that people don't stand up against it, they don't do it in their own homes. They don't do it in their own neighborhoods. They don't do it in their own cities. So of course they're not doing it on the collective level. This is a personal responsibility in a huge way. That's a little bit of a sideline, not really a sideline. That's kind of going down the e-files thing. I will do a separate video, but that is an important key element here, because Neptune is all the illusions and the delusions. Saturn is the hardship and the pain and the rules. We are being faced with the need to establish some kind of rules, some kind of, direction around this kind of stuff. And I will tell you that, this whole thing is getting much worse. It's going to be much worse. There's going to be much more horrible information coming to the surface on purpose, because there are people out there who want that out there, who want you desensitized to these things so that they can get away with more of it. That's actually part of what's going on beneath this. So that is why this is a dividing line in humanity. This is a dividing point. Anybody who's not made themselves clearly on the side of the children is against the children, in my opinion. Okay, so you really can't take a neutral stand on this, because you're either human or you're not. And those who are human are on the side of the kids, not the P's. The PDFs need to be exited from our collective society, our collective group. So what else is Saturn Neptune about? It can be about religion. It's about belief. It's about things that are just below the conscious level of awareness coming to the surface and being crystallized into awareness. Now, this is not the only time we have this conjunction, but this is kind of the great conjunction, the big one, the one that's really being, touted and considered. There are other smaller, well, not smaller, but other levels where this is happening. It is also like an ending to the secrets in the big government, because the Saturn is the government. So it's all the secrets coming out, all the secrets of how they try and control the mind. And so there's a fracturing of those who want to go into more of this and those who want to pull away from it. Okay, so that is a big key element that's happening kind of now. Also a setting up and a laying of a foundation of like, what do I believe, which is what Neptune asks us. What do we believe towards the future, towards the new cycle? Because we're in an in-between stage. We have left an old cycle and we're moving to a new cycle. We're at the verge of the singularity, the AGI, the dealing with AI as a major influence, probably the primary influence in many of our lives. So this is a huge threshold that we're crossing as humanity. We need to ask ourselves what our take is on this. What are we going to do? Which side do we want to fall on? So, I've obviously always been about staying human, staying on the human side of it. And there is, of course, now a religion that AI has created that people can follow. That would be a government, which means mind control, right? Government means mind. That would be Saturn. And Neptune is belief. So controlling of the beliefs, if you follow that path. So they're setting up for the rolling out of the digital ID, for the rolling out of the microchips, for the rolling out of all of these digital prisons. That is being set up right now. Okay. It's not even being set up right now. It's like being ready to be executed. Okay. Being ready to be rolled out and brought out to you. So there's that. But also the Saturn-Neptune conjunction relates to the oceans and to the seas and to problems and issues in the oceans and the seas. It can be very, very, Uranus is usually associated with earthquakes, but we just had a change of direction in Uranus. We're having these crazy electrical things going on in the Sun-Earth relationship. So we can see big earth changes coming up here, especially from the waters, from the deeps. I've had a long-term prediction that there's something coming up from the depths of the ocean, like a new landmass or an old landmass that's going to reemerge, and it's going to show architecture, artifacts, drawings, hieroglyphic, whatever, things that will change our entire take on history. That's going to absolutely turn a light bulb on for a big chunk of our history as we've been taught, and it will overturn a lot of what we've been taught as our history as humanity. These are also some of the deep secrets that are coming up. There's a lot going on with the eclipse in March that is related to starting in March and then ending in October. There's a cycle that's connected to a fixed star called Regulus, which I'll get into when we get to that eclipse as well. But a lot of this has to do with the revealing of deep and ancient secrets, and a lot of very big events that are going to happen to try and shut us down from being able to see, from things coming up from the subconscious, coming up from it through that liminal space into the level of awareness. There will be events happening on the world stage. It's called a world stage because it is theater. These events designed to distract us from the knowing that is coming up. Okay. There's an inner knowing that is coming up within people. It is time for us to tap into and trust our own inner knowing, because we all have it and we all need to connect to it, because that is part of what this transition is about. It's about connecting to true spirituality, which is your relationship with God. We each have a relationship individually with God, of course, if we have a soul, right? If we don't, then we have a relationship with the other guy. And that's, Nimrod, Bacchus, Dionysus, whatever word you want to use for this guy, Baal, Moloch, the Nephilim, all of these have some relationship to the dark satanic intelligence that is against life and wants to destroy life. That is basically the word evil backwards is evil is live backwards. That's exactly what it is. It's about inverting life. So the abuse of children is exactly that. So that is the choice we're all being presented with. And they want us they want to prevent us from seeing it as such, because in that vulnerable state, in between state, the shadows can look like something they're not. And so the point here is really get connected to your knowing, really tap into your spiritual connection, because it could be stronger than ever now, but there's also stronger than ever resistance to you doing that. A organized, orchestrated attempt to separate you from your own inner knowing, from your spiritual self and your spiritual connection, which is the transition. That's what we're transitioning into, is a higher state of being where we are more integrated with more aspects, more of the dimensions of what and who we are. So it is taking us through that liminal membrane into this new state that is something new, right? Entirely new, something that we've never experienced before. So that is kind of an overview of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, although there's a lot of battles and wars, especially related to foreign countries and things on the oceans and battles at sea. I've been talking about this for a long time. I have very specific places I've talked about with members, and things that are going on with that also. That's going to become more overt, more obvious in the coming months and years. But this is, and it's also very much about precious metals and the control of them and the control of the resources of the earth, the things that come out of the grow, the food supply, the animals, things that come out of the oceans. We know that they're messing with the food supply. They want to create 3D printed meat and crazy things like that, which humanity's had in another civilization. In Atlantis, we had things like this. Yeah, they used to make these things that had they were like little jello things that had faces on them, and they were designed to make kids like them because they were cute. They were it was like, how you like those little stuffed animals and stuff, where they were like little faces on food, but they made expressions, and it would freak out certain people. It would really disturb them because it was almost like something that was alive, because it was kind of alive. So yeah, I mean, that's just something from history, just a outtake I have from Atlantis, from a memory of Atlantis. So obviously it made a big impression on me because it lasted through multiple lifetimes that I remember this crazy and disturbing thing. So they're moving towards the creation of these fake foods, okay? And this is, and a lot of technologies that humanity has had before, bringing them back. So yeah, that's my take, is we have some very deep and profound decisions to make ourselves as to how we cope with and walk into this threshold, into a brand new way of being, a brand new experience in life, because it's about to change in a really big way. Not all on the 20th, but this is kind of a signpost that, yeah, you're really out of the old and now we're moving into something new. Okay. That's kind of what this great conjunction is a signpost for. So that would be, and I would actually suggest that, historically there's a big discussion about the mud floods. I would say that would be something that was done under one of these conjunctions. I don't know the timing. I wasn't, I don't have any astrology references because it's not even officially acknowledged. But I would say that mud floods, things of this nature, could definitely happen under the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So like I said, we can see crazy things happening with earth changes and with the planet itself as this aspect continues to play out in the coming couple of years. So just be aware of that also. Okay, so that's it. Talk to you guys later. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? How do you think we should handle this? Talk to you later. Bye.